Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's New Year's Day. Happy New Year's. 2024 is going to be a good year. Let's hope. 2023 is gone. It's the past. Don't even think another second about it. Let's just have a forward trajectory. Let's laser focus on our goals and stay daily disciplined in the moment. Mind, body, and soul. This is how we get through. Today was just another Monday to me. I program every day. Doesn't matter what's going on in the world. Let's just tell some stories. We'll keep it light. I got plenty of topics that I can think about as far as spit and game, but let's just tell some stories today. I'll tell you about my train journey across country. It was rather adventurous. I took a train trip from DC to California and back when I was 16 years old, 15 I guess. I think I was 15. You could buy a rail pass with Amtrak. A rail pass in those days cost about $300, and it was a pass, like a ticket that could last you for several months, about 3 months, and you could get on and off the train at any station during that window of time. So that's what I did, and I booked a trip to go see my aunt in San Francisco. Saw my dad along the way, and stopped off at other places and had different adventures. And it was quite an adventurous journey. That journey changed me. On the way out to California, stopped off in Chicago, both directions, got to stop in Chicago. All the trains stop in Chicago. Chicago's an interesting city. I'd never been there before. I did a little tour. There was a layover. I had to switch trains, and there's like a 6-hour layover. So I found a little tour company right outside of the Union Station, like right across the street. And for about an hour and a half, I think it was, maybe 2 hours, they drive you around in a van all over Chicago. So I did that, and that was interesting. Get the history of the town and to see all this stuff. But I still had about 4 hours left. So I went and tried to hook up with some dope off this guy that looked like Jimi Hendrix, and he ripped me off, that son of a bitch. And that's a whole other story that I'm not going to tell on YouTube, because I actually went and hunted him down, and that's a whole other story. And yes, I did find him. I went inside the Sears Towers because I wanted to go up in the building, and it's a rather large building. You know, larger than the Empire State Building. Sears Towers are big. One of the biggest buildings in the world. So I go in, storm into the doorway, and I notice right away in the lobby they got this tour group shit, and they tell me, you got to take a tour. I said, I don't want to take a tour. I just want to go upstairs, look out the window. They say, you can't do that. You got to take a tour. You can't just freely roam through the building. But I did notice a bunch of suits, business people, getting in an elevator and going up to their offices, whatever, like they work there, right? Because I assume that's what the Sears Towers are, a bunch of offices. I used to love shopping at Sears. They don't have a Sears in this town anymore. Kmart was another one. I used to love Kmart. I loved Kmart. I was a Kmart type of fucking guy, man. They don't have that no more either, I don't think. But I figured I could just take the elevator with the business people, right? What do they know if I could be going to meet somebody up in one of them offices? What do they know? So I just followed the business people into the business elevator and started going up. I pushed top floor, I'm going up to the top. It's a long elevator ride, and that fucking elevator goes fast, so it's a big building. I'm up on the 80th floor or even higher, I forget what floor, but I'm way, 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 way up there. Those doors open. As soon as the doors open, there goes 2 cops. I guess that they saw me and dispatched some cops up. Those motherfuckers were on it. 2 cops right there. They wouldn't even let me off the elevator. They were just like, we're going right back down with you. You're going right back down. We're kicking you out of this building. If I was an adult, they probably would have arrested me. I begged those cops, please, just let me look out the window. You can throw me out of the building, you can arrest me, whatever you want to do, but let me just look out that window. Because the elevator wasn't close enough to the window, but there was a large glass window just right behind those cops. I was just like, man, let me just see. They wouldn't let me see. So they kicked me out. I got thrown out. I was out front of the Sears Towers like, fuck you guys. They tossed me out. I finally moseyed on from Chicago, and in between Chicago and New Mexico, the train stops in a particularly nomadic area. There's nothing. There's no houses. It's just nothing. No roads. That's the cool thing about the train. Taking the train is fun because the scenery is amazing. It goes through areas where there's no civilization. There's no roads or people or anything. It cuts through the landscape in a way that it wants to. And we're out in the middle of nowhere. And we stop. There actually was a small little access road, and we stop right next to that road. And I'm looking out the window like, why are we stopped for so long? And I see these police, like SUV cops. They got big off-road tires and big bumpers. They come rolling up, and somebody gets put into the back of the police car. They take them off, and the train continues. Well, the story was that a little child, I think a little girl, 10 years old, 7 years old, whatever, goes to the bathroom, and they got little bathrooms very similar to airplane bathrooms. Little tiny, little skinny, little stupid bathrooms with those weird little accordion doors. Same kind of bathroom. Maybe a tiny bit larger. So she goes to the bathroom, opens the door, she goes by herself. You know, it's a long time ago. Kids kind of could roam around freely. Nowadays, a parent would be with that child. The kid's going to the bathroom by herself, opens the door, and there's this woman, an old woman, perched up on the sink, because they got a little tiny little sink and a little tiny little toilet, you know. She's perched up on the tiny little sink with her dress hiked up, and she's pissing in the tiny little sink. So the little girl sees this, screams, ah, and runs off. And then the pandemonium ensues to try to arrest this lady. They have, you know, I don't know if they have cops on the train, but they detained her, stopped the train, tossed her off. And that was the funniest thing. They didn't wait to the next station. They were like, they stopped, middle of nowhere, get off, you're off the train, booted her off, middle of nowhere. We get to New Mexico, I hung out with my dad. That's always an adventure. It'd take me an hour to tell that story. And then we continued on to San Francisco. I hung out with my aunt in San Francisco. That was kind of a drag because she invited me all the way out there. And on the phone, when I was talking to her, and she's like, yeah, you come out for a week and you stay with me and this will be great. And I was just like, cool, I can't wait to see you. And I get all the way out there, this crazy journey. And she's just like, well, what are you doing here? And I'm like, you invited me. You know, look at your calendar. I'm supposed to stay with you. And she's just like annoyed as fuck that I'm there. So that was kind of a drag. But I end up going my way back. And I stopped at several places on the way back. I stopped in Colorado, visit my other aunt. She's cool. And we're going through Kansas. I'm leaving Colorado. We're heading through Kansas. They got this weird area called Canorado, where it's Kansas and Colorado. And then you get into Kansas and it's just flatlands. They got two bar cars. They got a bar car upstairs with the observation deck. That's the bar car you want to hang out at, but you can't smoke at that one. The one that you can smoke at least back in the old days, smoke cigarettes, was the one downstairs, because it's a double-decker train. So I'm at the bar car downstairs. They serve food at that one, you know, $7 hot dogs and rip-off food. It's all terrible, microwaved or whatever. And there's one other guy down there, this long-haired dude. Turns out, and I start talking to him, we're down there smoking cigarettes. He's buying these expensive beers. He bought me a few of them. Turns out he had money. He was the guitar player of a rock band called Kix, K-I-X, and they were popular in the old days. Some of you guys my age remember Kix. They had a couple radio songs. So he's in that band Kix, and he was cool as fuck. And it's daylight. The train comes to like a creeping little crawl. It's barely going. It's just creeping along, which is weird because we had been going at a really good speed. Those trains keep a good speed. But now it's slowing down. And we're wondering, well, they got another crazy lady? Are we going to kick somebody off again? And it's just fields, farms on both sides. But we quickly notice as we're looking out the window and we're just kind of creeping along that on either side of the train there's a thin strip of about 4 to 6 foot pot plants on both sides. And it goes on and on and on. We creep along at that slow speed through this column, this canopy of pot plants for about 4 hours. For miles and miles and miles. We're both jonesing, we want to fucking get high. There's all this weed sitting out right outside the window on both sides. Can't get to it. I just accepted my situation. What a tease. The rock star, he flipped out, man. He went and talked to the conductor guy, one of the train dudes, and was just like, you gotta let me off the train, let me off the train. And the guy's like, you're not getting off the train. What are you talking about? We're in the middle of nowhere. Nobody's getting off the train. And he's like, no, let me off, just open the door. I'll dive off, I'll roll. I'll be cool, man, don't worry about it. I just gotta get off, I gotta get off. And I was laughing. I guess he wanted to go steal all that weed. He's like, I gotta get to that weed. I need to get high. And we just slowly clicked, clacked through this column of pot. Turns out, for anybody wondering what it is, why it's there, we asked one of the train dudes, and the train dude said, yeah, this is just left over from the old days when the U.S. government used to grow weed. The U.S. government used to grow weed. And they used it for hemp in order to make materials, and all the uniforms and duffel bags and even sails for ships and all of that kind of stuff. Materials were made out of hemp. It's a very good fiber. And this is just left over from it. So if anybody out there wants some free government weed, all you got to do is go to Kansas. It's probably still there. It grows naturally, grows wild. They can't get rid of it. Happy New Year.